So, all right, in the Duffle Bag podcast with myself, Chuckie, yeah? Now, this is amazing for me because before I even do the proper introduction, yeah, early in the year, I had a list of like a couple of people I want to talk to, I want to have a conversation with, and it was just like my personal list, and I sent it to someone. And they looked and they saw this name and they were like, they said the name out and they started laughing, but not in a way that it was like, that it could never happen. But it was like, it's a bit random, Chucks. You know what I mean? I'm here with my guy, Ed Hearn, you know. What's going on?
How are you doing?
How are you, man?
These things are a bit annoying, aren't they? Like,
yeah, they are. They're a little bit in the way.
I've noticed you've nutted twice. I've had the elbow on it.
Yeah, Eddie, how are you?
I'm good. We're up in Sheffield.
Yes.
I've driven up today. Yeah, just relaxing up the A1 and I was driving, but on the phone, hands-free, of course. Little Starbucks. Excited, looking forward to seeing AJ. He's worked really hard this camp, really hard. Yeah. And he's given it everything to get ready for December 7th.
I just want to talk a little bit about you first. I feel like I'm sitting across the table of the most popular boxing promoter of the, I don't know, it has to be decade.
I don't know. Have you heard the boos, like when I get in the ring?
Yeah, but do you know what? That's popularity though. How much boxing promoters will get into a ring and people have any type of response, whether it be a cheer or a boo. So the fact that so much people are booing you shows how much people actually know you. Yeah. Has this kind of been by design? Because I've noticed that like a little bit of what you've been able to do is use the internet and social media in a way to kind of lift not just your profile, but your business and what it is that you do.
Yeah, I have to be honest, like in terms of my profile, that's really unintentional. I mean, I've never been a shy fella, and you know I'm happy to go out in front of the camera, talk in front of the camera, you know, open my mouth all the time. The level it's got to, particularly like with things like no context Hearn now and stuff like that.
That's
like,
mad.
That's taking it to another level where that's non-boxing fans.
Yeah.
Like if you're a boxing fan, you know who I am.
Yeah.
If you're a sports fan, generally you'll know who I am. But if you're just like neither, you shouldn't really know who I am. What no context Hearn has done has actually reached out to the other side of people who now stop me and say, oh, you're that guy from the memes. I'm like, no, I'm a boxing promoter. No, you're the bloke from Instagram. You know, does those funny clips. I'm like, so whatever. So a lot of it is kind of unintentional, you know, the brash side, the promotional side, and, you know, the loudmouth and the selling of the events and our fighters is intentional. I mean, that's my job, you know, and it's kind of like all wrapped into one. The way we've embraced the internet and social media has been a plan from the get-go. You know, we were the first sort of promotional companies to do that. We come along at a time, or I started promoting boxing at a time, which was about 10 years ago, where Twitter was starting up, Instagram was starting, Snapchat was just getting off the ground. And we used those in a way that was just smart. You know, my dad, who's a Hall of Fame promoter, would go drive to train stations in the East End and put up posters while no one was looking. That was the way they reached the public. So really, when something comes along like social media, we got to embrace that, because how easy is it?
See, like you started 10 years ago, That was, so your journey into boxing was from that kinda. Was that in the meeting then? Because as you said, you know, social media was just becoming a thing. Twitter was just becoming a thing. So did you even have the foresight, even at that time, of a thing of like, you know what, let's try to embrace it somehow? Or sometimes it just comes by chance, innit? You start seeing the movement in something, and then you think, oh, okay, we can start using it.
I'm a big believer in generally things happening at the right time, you know, particularly luck. Like, to be successful in anything, you need ability. You got to work really hard. You need a lot of luck along the way. So the timing just fell into place beautifully. I mean, we had to be savvy enough. You know, no one else did. You know, no other promoters looked at social media and said, oh, and it was only really when we were embracing social media and then the other promoters came on board, but they were 2 or 3 years late. So, you know, they never really developed the following. I've been around boxing since I was 8.
Yeah, of course.
So for me, I had all the fundamentals. I knew the sport inside out. It was just, what happened is I went into the sport where people were promoting boxing on TV in leisure centres that were half empty. And I knew that from a TV perspective and a TV product, if you're a fan sitting at home and you're watching a fight in a leisure centre that's half empty, you pretty much switch channel straight away, because you know it's got to be right? Yeah. The same time, if you go on to a show and it's 10, 15, 20,000, and there's Sweet Caroline playing, and people are dressed up and they're standing up and they're enjoying themselves, that makes you must think, well, what's going on here? This is a major event. So the first move for us was not just to embrace social media, but take boxing from that small hall mentality to like, guys, we did it with the darts, right? Yeah. So it's the same thing. You used to go to the darts and it was, and no disrespect to 20 stone geezers with tattoos and sovereign rings, but that's what it was. So you're always going to attract a type of audience, a type of clientele. And that was the same with the boxing. You know, you turn up, it was like, 95% men, and the other 5% of women probably look like men, in the respect that like it was rough. Yeah. It was rough. And it used to put the general public off going because you didn't want to go to, again, no disrespect to Huddersfield Leisure Centre. No. But sorry, you have to make it sexy. That's what happened with darts. So what we did with darts is we took it out of the Circus Tavern in Purfleet and we put it in Alexandra Palace. Right? We created a VIP hospitality area.
But that's a big difference in venue size. Yeah. So taking that risk from having it from being there and taking it into Alexandra Palace that's a big deal, bro.
But not as big as taking it from York Hall to Wembley Stadium. Yeah. That's what we did in boxing. But that's a natural transition. You've got to be able to adapt in any business, and you've got to have the vision. And that vision comes from, sometimes it's a blinkered vision. And what I mean by that is, I can start out and say, what we need to do is we need to get in the O2. When I started promoting shows and I started talking to people about, forget the O2, even Sheffield Arena next door where I did Brooke Hatton, which was one of our big breakout fights, they were like, don't go to Sheffield Arena, that holds 8,000. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I think War of the Roses, Brooke Hatton, Manchester, Sheffield, I think we can fill it. They're like, you are mad. Anyway, we fill it. Then we do Froch Butte in Nottingham Arena, do 7,000 in there. Then we do Froch Kesler, then we do Froch Groves, and then you get the controversy, and then I tell everyone I'm going to do the rematch at Wembley Stadium. Yes. And they're like, my dad was like, no, son, you're doing really well. You've just filled 18,000. This is 80,000. Yeah. Don't be daft. No, Dad, you got, that's when the social media side, the trends and the momentum of interest, that's what you've got to be able to read as a promoter, because it's so easy to get caught up and say, this is massive. My dad said to me, when you boxed Watson for the first time, they did it at Earl's Court. The rematch, and it was controversial, right? So my dad, for the rematch, did it at White Hart Lane. Okay. Right? And he was like, this is going to be massive. This is going to... And it didn't bomb at the gate, but didn't do... I think it done 16, 18,000. Yeah. And they wanted to do 40,000. It's difficult to read when you can't see the responses of people. But then again, you still need to understand the trends. You have to understand the interest in fights. And that's part of the skill of being a promoter, of knowing the size of the fight, the interest of the fight, because ultimately you have to pay these guys in relation to the revenue you're going to bring in for that fight.
Definitely.
So Froch Groves, you've always got your bollocks on the line, because I'm saying, okay, guys, we're going to go into Wembley. Now, I'm not paying you on selling 20,000. I'm paying you on selling 60,000.
Of course.
And if I don't,
then you have to pay out of your pocket.
Yeah, exactly. So it's about gauging the interest. And social media has been really good in helping me understand the interest levels for a fight or a fighter. Of course. And that's not just me going, I've read a few. That's proper digital analysis. Of our team going, I've got to say, like, this fighter here, look at the momentum he's got online right now. These are the stats, these are the impressions, etc. And when we talk about this fight, it's a scientific thing.
And everything, I feel like every risk sounds crazy until it's done. Yeah. So it's like when you have these ideas to take something and pull it over here, then I guess everyone kind of puts their own fears onto you. No, you can't do it. Yeah. That's too big. Maybe look at doing it over there. Then you do it. Then all of a sudden it's like, okay. Yeah, but then you look at doing something else which is even bigger. Then again, everyone puts their fears onto you on like.
But then the risks become higher and higher. This is. I was talking to my old man about it the other day. I said, we're operating at such a level now where back in the day, we could lose 100 grand on a show, right? And it would be a massive kick in the bollocks. Now, we might do a couple of million on a show. Yeah. So although we're flying and we're making a load of money and we're going worldwide.
Yeah.
The risks associated now,
Are
you
nuts.
know, you're always saying this has got to do X amount of pay-per-view buyers in the UK. This has got to do X amount of subscriptions on DAZN.
Yeah.
You know, this has got to do X amount international TV. We've got to sell 15,000 tickets.
Yeah.
And everything's got to come together. And if it doesn't, then it's a risk. And the higher the stakes, you know, bit like the KSI Logan Paul fight.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, everyone was saying, you know, no. And it was like the money that we had to lay out, and that's a little bit outside of our comfort zone because that's a market I do understand much better now, but going into,
before that.
I'm like, this is just mad. And I know the numbers from the first fight.
Yeah.
I'm like,
well, you're technically seeing faces this time around that you don't really see. It's like, although you're dealing with boxing at a really high level, you're kind of used to seeing the same type of faces. When you're dealing with like a KSI Logan Paul thing now, you're looking at, there's a dog there, for God's sake. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But that's all about understanding your customer.
Yeah.
And I do that very well for traditional boxing because I am the customer.
Yeah.
Right? So I believe that all the fight fans want what I want. They want what I want in terms of the sport, and they want what I want in terms of the in-arena experience, which is a couple of drinks, you know, people dressed up, music, good time, good energy.
Yeah.
These are different customers.
Yeah.
You know, these are different demographic of people. So that was the interesting thing for me, is understanding this new world where much younger, you know, and the stats show us that 18 to 24 was the prominent age, you know, for that event. And just about understanding how they buy, how they watch, how they digest content, how, you know, and that's been mind-blowing, to be honest with you.
I want to ask you a little bit about your thoughts on, like, I'm a casual fan of boxing. I'm definitely more
well, you're
UFC.
In a mass market. Then.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm a UFC guy.
Yeah.
But like boxing wise, I'm very casual, and more so, I feel like this is funny as well, because a lot of the time I'll be watching like some of your stuff on YouTube and whatever, yeah, and then like I'll end up hearing you talking about boxers and stuff that I've maybe never have heard of. I'll Google them, end up watching their fights and stuff. So now I feel like I'm a lot more knowledgeable on the sport over the last couple of years from watching your stuff. But to me, as a casual fan, yeah, and having boxers in my family and whatnot, I kind of felt like at a point prior to some of the stuff that you had been doing, it seemed like the sport was pretty dead. British boxing anyway. It seemed like it was pretty dead. When you've come into it, I'm sure that obviously like proper boxing fans will say, nah, like there was all these things and whatever. You know, you'll always have the like the hardcore fans that were like, what do they call them? There's like a word for them. But like the hardcore fans that will always say that. It's always been alive. It's always been, you know what I mean? There's always been things happening. But prior to your involvement with it, yeah, when you was looking at British boxing, what did you see? Well, what did you feel was missing? And what do you feel like was the biggest contributing factor to what you have done today into British boxing today, if that makes sense?
I felt that what was missing was the razzmatazz.
Yeah.
You know, was the hype, was that Saturday night experience, big fight experience, you know, for the fans, where you either tuned in or you was in the arena and there was an energy. You know, I went to a UFC fight, which was Darwin against Lesnar, or Carwin against Lesnar, whatever his name was. But the night before, I went to a boxing event. This was in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay. The Friday night, I went to the boxing event. I looked round, there was 3,000 people there in a 7,000 arena. And I was sitting next to this guy, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. And he had a hot dog, like a foot-long hot dog. And he had a big 3-litre Coke, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he was sat there on his chair. And while the undercard fights were on,
he was like, damn near sleeping.
Yeah, while he was eating. And I just looked at him and thought, how, you know, boxing's dead. Yeah. Then I went to the UFC fight the next night, and it was unbelievable.
A movie.
The energy, right? People dressed up to the nines. They weren't drinking 3-litre Cokes. They were drinking vodka Red Bull or champagne, or, you know, and the energy in the arena. Yeah. And when you got the ticket in your hand for the UFC, it's like,
but don't you reckon that might have just been because, although UFC's been going on since the 90s, yeah, like isn't it like it's always different when it's kind of new though?
It
so
is,
I guess,
but now boxing feels new.
Yeah,
true. Boxing's been around for hundreds of years, right? It's one of the most traditional sports going. But all of a sudden now, it feels new. Why? Because it is cool again. It is sexy again. But more importantly, you're getting excited again because you're being told a story. You're being given the hype by me, by our social media team. So my job is to get you excited about fights. One, to make good fights that fill arenas, that deliver viewing figures, but ultimately to get you engaged and to get you excited. So that when Saturday night comes around, if you've got your golden ticket and you're in the arena, you're getting dressed at night thinking, I'm going to a Matchroom show tonight. Oh, it's this fight. I know all about it. And it's not, the difference is what we've done is we've educated the casual fan and we've given them the knowledge to almost become a hardcore fan.
Yeah.
So, and that's so important because if you speak to people in the arena at a UK show, they will know virtually all the undercard guys, right? So they'll say, oh yeah, this guy, I know him because, I watched him with Coogan and he lives in Liverpool and he's funny, this guy.
Yeah.
Whereas you go to America, they don't know anyone because they haven't been educated. So just like you say, I'm a casual fan that, I know this guy now and I know this guy. That's because you've been infiltrated with me and Coogan and Sky and all these people. But you've chose to engage it because at some point this sport has grabbed you. Yeah. You like it and you're interested in it. Yeah. Same thing with UFC. UFC's job for you now is to keep you on the hook.
100%.
Right? It's to say, right, you're a UFC fan. You just said there, I prefer UFC. Okay, right. So we've got to make sure that our social content, our marketing, our events, our look, our feel, our in-arena experience.
Yeah, of course.
Is the one.
And also the matchups as well.
Yeah, of course. But that's the most important thing. That's the product, right? That's you can dress it up, right? But ultimately, the fights are the product.
Yeah.
So if you put a load of on, but I'm telling you it's the greatest thing since sliced bread and there's loads of, great people at this show and everyone's dressed up and it's a hot ticket, and then you get there and you leave the arena and go, yeah, decent night, but the fight's no good.
Of course.
No good. You're not always going to get fight of the year contenders, but we have delivered more of the top fights. And by the way, UFC are doing that on a regular basis because they have total control of the sport. Yeah. And you have no choice as a UFC fighter but to fight who you're told to fight.
Of course.
And sometimes I'm quite jealous of that because it takes all the politics away from the sport. And I just say to you, right, just to let you know, March the 7th, you're fighting him. Yeah. And you know your money because it's in your contract. See you there. Right? Not, who walks first? I don't like that promoter. Oh, he's with another TV network.
Yeah, all of the politics and that, especially, from a fan's perspective, is just jarring. Yeah. And it's confusing as well because sometimes you're just like, well, why? Like, if they just want to fight, why can't they just fight? Like, why is there all of this, that, and this one's with this person or whatever? We don't even really care about that. But just on the going to the promotional side of it, and just hearing you speak, I can see like exactly where and how things have sort of changed because I think, and speak on this a little bit. Naturally, you're sitting in front of a camera with Coogan, IFL, whoever it may be, and you're talking about some of the fights that you've got coming up or whatever it is. And then naturally, you're starting to see people gravitate into hearing you speak a bit. So then a different side of the promoter comes out because then now you realize, oh, wait, hold on a minute. I'm actually talking to people here, and I can get them to potentially buy tickets to come to an event. So now it seems like an element of your job is not now just being in the office and making these phone calls or whatever it is, but it's now sitting in front of a camera and saying, all right, this is what I think, this is how I feel, and this is what I'm doing, and this is why you need to be a part of it.
Yeah, but that's because my job, what I am is a salesman. Yeah. Right, and that's what all promoters are. Doesn't matter if you're selling photocopiers or fights. It's the same skill.
Of course. Right? But before, just to interrupt you, before boxing promoters weren't selling to us direct.
No, but because it's harder to hit you direct. Yeah. Now I can hit you direct in your handset. Yeah. Right? Where you're looking at virtually every second of every day. Right? We're lucky that we've got that, but it's still a skill. I grew up selling on the phone, right? Which is the toughest form of sales you will ever get.
1,000,000%. I spent
15, 16, that age, I was selling double glazing windows after college, right, from 4 till 6, the best thing I've ever done. Because if you can sell double glazing windows over the phone, then I can sell you a great night out on a Saturday, no problem, right? And the difference is, like you say now, I mean, the Coogan stuff's been interesting because it's only like going back to no context and stuff where I'm watching it going, did I say that?
Yeah.
Like, because he's been able to get me, like when I do a Sky interview, he'll always say, oh, you're like, oh, hey, here I am for Sky Sports, you know. It's a lot more corporate. Yeah. With him, you're talking about everything, whether it's crisps, whether it's night out, whether it's the gym, whether it's your diet, whether it's, you know, and people like to see that. People nowadays are becoming fascinated by actually learning about people. They're nosy, they want to know. And it's not me playing a game.
Yeah.
With him, it's just, I'm open. And you kind of get to an age as well which is now, where I don't really give a
Yeah.
Like, if it was 10 years ago, I probably would have been a little bit more guarded. You know, oh, yeah, no, good. You know, how do I look? No, I don't care. Like, I'm married, I've got kids.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a little bit overweight. My barnet's going a little bit. I don't care, you know, but I'm happy.
Yeah.
You know, and then
your beard's still joined.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's good.
your beard's, it's
but
cool.
But it's like you get to a stage in your life where that's when you're really dangerous in life.
Yeah.
Like when you don't care. Of course I care about things, but you just when you're very comfortable in yourself. And we've got such a strong business. I don't need to lie to you. So I will tell you 100% the truth. You may not think it's the truth, but I'm telling you, from my point of view, it is 100% the truth because we've got nothing to hide. You know, and we won't be dictated to by people because we're in a strong position. Doesn't mean we're arrogant, but people like me talking my mind. You won't always agree with it, but you're always going to get from me my mind, rather than just, oh yeah, no, you know, this and that, and it's a PC answer. No, it's not going to be like that. So, you know, that interaction with the public, like I say, it's not always been. I mean, he's been like following me for years, driving me mad.
Do you know what? Just for people who don't know, because there will be some people who like they'll be like, he, Coogan, whatever. Coogan, he runs a YouTube channel that you're heavily a part of. He interviews loads of boxers and stuff like that. He's very deep in the game, but it seems like you have a really good relationship with him. So that's how I learned.
Yeah, he has the ability to phone me up and say, "Can I come in and do
all access?"
An
He's
hour?
got a AAA.
And I go, "No, mate," and he goes, "Oh, go on." Oh,
coming in.
And then next thing, like we're sitting there in my office and we're just joking and like, you know, and sometimes you forget that it is an interview, but that's you know that's the rawness that people like.
Definitely. I want to pick up a little bit on what you said actually about the like getting to a stage in business, but also just in life a little bit of like not really. Of course, you care about your business, but you feel at your most dangerous now because you don't. There's like a big side of things that you just don't really care. And is it having like such a strong family unit at home? Because I always feel like if you've got like a proper strong family unit at home, and I mean, obviously your dad is your business partner as well to some degree or to a big degree. And then like you've got that sort of setup. Now it kind of gives you the freedom to just go out in the world and just swing it out.
Yeah, I think that, you know, when you're in a good position in a business sense, firstly, it's a lot easier to have that, you know, that lack of fear. The best ways to have no fear is to have absolutely nothing or absolutely everything. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like if you're in the middle and you're playing this game where you're on the breadline, but you don't want to gamble too much because you're actually quite comfortable. But you know, it's easy for me to sit here and say, yeah, I don't care. But it's more about it's a mental state of mind that I've sort of become accustomed to, where there are so many problems in boxing that I can't even tell you, like every day. And when you're doing 12 shows a year, there's 100 problems a year. And when you're doing 50 shows a year, which we are now, there's 400 problems a year. And you end up just becoming accustomed to. Life is all about repetition. And the more you do something, the more comfortable you get with it. Yeah. So people might say to me, oh, you know, at press conferences, you'd never have notes. Like, I'm the only promoter that will have no paper in front of me.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I've done 10,000 of them, and it's all in my mind and my heart. I don't want any notes.
Yeah.
Was I nervous when I first done it? Oh, myself.
Of course.
But it's all about repetition. You know, and the more you do something, the more you're going to get used to something. Also, people nowadays overthink things in such a crazy way. Hopefully he's not listening to this, but my brother-in-law, like, he's one of these guys where he comes around, he's like, oh yeah, I was thinking about, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you analysing everything? There's so much information out there nowadays. It's not like and I'm not talking about even in the old days where people used to live their lives. No one worried about each other's business. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like you would get up, you would go to work, you would come home, you'd play with the kids, you'd have your dinner, you'd watch a bit of TV, you go to bed. What a beautiful life. Yeah. Now, you got to read stuff, comments. And I said to my old man the other day, he's like, yeah, this geezer on Twitter, he said to me, I said, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, you wouldn't give this guy, if this guy stopped you in the street and started talking to you about snooker and what you're doing in this tournament, you wouldn't give him the, you'd acknowledge him, but you wouldn't be rude, but you're actually letting this guy get in your head.
That's about perspective, though.
It is, you know what I'm saying? But you've just got to understand now that we live in a very intrusive world. Yes. And now we live in a world where mental health becomes a major problem. Definitely. Because of the lack of that simplistic lifestyle where mental health has always been around. It wasn't a problem when life was simple. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course it was there, but it's there now because you're worried about things, and you may have issues that have escalated, but how have they escalated and why? Debt is a major problem now. Definitely. Okay, so why do people have debt? Generally because they spend too much. They want to be like this. They want those clothes. They want that car. They want this house. Now they're gambling because they want that money and they want this, Next thing they're going out, they're taking drugs. They've got a drug habit. They've got, I mean, debt comes out, and debt is a major reason for suicide and things like that. I mean, we're going real deep now, but but the truth is because people are so bothered about people's opinions and what people are thinking and this complicated world that we live in. Yeah. That it does drive you crazy. Yeah. Right? So my advice to those people, and this is something I live by, is just take every day as it comes. Yeah. Doesn't mean you can't have a strategy, but all you have to do every day is solve the problems of today. That's it. Right? So if you've got a problem, sit down, take a breath and overcome it. You just got to keep breathing. You've got to love your family and you've got to work as hard as you can every day. That's the 3 simple mottos in life. But people overcomplicate things so much that they end up stressing themselves out, driving themselves crazy. And I feel like as good as this social media world is in some respects for our business, I don't want to sit there at night and read people calling me all night. And actually I've learned to just go, no. Because I went for a period maybe a year ago where I was still reading it all. And I'm like, and then I had to sit down to myself and say, what are you doing? Did someone sit down with you? It was Wayne. I had a conversation with Wayne Rooney, right? It was a pal of mine. And I said to him, are you on Twitter? He's like, yeah, of course I'm on Twitter. I said, how'd you put up with a stick? And he went, what do you mean? I said, like, I've seen some of the things people put comments to your tweets. Yeah. He's gone, well, obviously I don't read them. I said, oh, don't you? He went, why would you read that? And I was like, yeah. And he said, well, why would you read someone slagging you off all day? Yeah. And I sort of thought, well, partly it's my job because I can't remove myself from it so that I don't listen to the fan or understand the fan's mentality. But social media, particularly Twitter, has just become like a slagging ground. Yeah. So I'm like...
And it always kind of has been, to be fair. And the reason why I say that, it's terrible. I know it's terrible now. But the thing is, it always kind of has been in a sense, yeah. And the reason why I say this is because, you're getting a lot of people that are like being pulled up for things that they'd said however long ago. And society's changed a lot. So there's like a lot of things that like now, if you would have said it like when Twitter first came out, it's like, like you're just on the internet and you're just saying all of these things, not knowing that at some point in your life, you might become a professional boxer or you might be a promoter or you might be a personality or whatnot. And then they dig back into 15 years ago, what you said when you was like 13 years old or whatever, and then use that as a thing, use that against you to seek to almost use that as like who you are as today. Do you know what I mean? But with that being said, I feel like now people always have an opinion. Like everyone has an opinion, everyone has something to say. And when you are in a sport like this and you're you know, your career is where it is, more and more people are going to have an opinion, and more people are going to have an opinion.
But it's also an opinion that you wouldn't give in another form of life.
And that's where I was going with it.
Sometimes I feel like the amount of times you wouldn't believe, right? I'll go onto my DMs, you know, on Instagram, not the people you follow, but just like the random ones, right? Yeah. Every week I'll go on there and just read through. Like,
why?
I don't know. Just because, well, mostly because sometimes it might be a fighter that I'm not following has reached out to me and said, you know, or could be anything. Could be a brand. Could be like someone who wants to sponsor a fight. Could be, I don't know. In fact, the Saudi Arabia deal come that way. Someone
really?
Contacted me that way
through
to speak to a prince. Yeah, through someone I don't follow. So I've got to be on the ball. Yeah. But it's like every now and again, maybe once a month, like less, someone will write something and it might be like brutal. Yes. Like, you. Yeah. So I'll just reply and I'll go, I understand that you're facing problems right now, but I hope life improves for you. Yeah. Right? Just to really wind them up, right? Yeah. They come back and go, you, blah, 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 blah. I'll go, no problem. Again, I hope life improves. Have a good day. Yeah. And then they reply and go, I just wanted a response. Yes. How you doing?
I'm like, bro, what? Can you listen, Eddie? Yeah, you see, by responding, firstly, they are in absolute shock that there's a notification and it says Eddie Hearn. Yeah, and then like, so you say something and they think, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll just keep this up one last one. See what happens. Eddie, you, this, that. The gun fingers are going crazy. Then you respond again and like, oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. But it's like, oh, mate, I'm only joking.
They screenshot it, might even put it on their thing.
Love what you do, like this. And I just think to myself, so I think a lot of the time, people are looking for that response. Yeah. But I just said to myself, maybe 6 months ago, as recent as that, you can't keep, like, you have to be, to get to where I want to be, you have to be so driven and you have to have such positivity that the negative energy is going to derail you, right? And you're not going to get to where you want to be if you listen to people who, quite frankly, are not qualified to give you an opinion on certain things. Fans are always, you know, respected to say what they think. But in certain things and personal stuff and stuff like that, in the end, it's like, I don't need that in my life, you know. And that's where I was sort of at a stage where it was getting me down. I was reading, I'm thinking, I'm knocking my bollocks out every day. I'm away from my family. You know, I'm like giving 110% day in, day out. And who are you giving me stick? And then I started breaking it down and going, yeah. Who are you giving me stick?
Yeah,
like, let me
you
do
have
my
to have
thing.
That. You have to have that perspective.
You've got to have that single-mindedness to say, I'm sorry. I know exactly where I'm going, and nothing is going to get in my way. Yeah. And that's what I've got. And I went through a little blip, you know, like I said, 6 months ago, I just started thinking, you know, I'm doing 50 shows a year. Like I said, I'm away from my family all the time. Like, I'm giving it 120%. I feel like I'm doing the right thing for my business and for the sport. Yeah. And the criticism, I don't need it. No. Like, and then I just got to the point where I said, I can't let that in, because if you drain me of any energy, it's going to affect my goal and my mindset, and I can't have that. So, like, I don't think there's, in fact, I think there's zero, either super high, you know, celebrity people or super successful sportsmen who generally sit there at night and go through fans' comments. I mean, why would you do that?
Of course,
you know, if you're in that position.
And this is the thing, it's like with that as well, I always feel like the negative side of it, is always so much more. See, like when it's positive, it in some way it doesn't necessarily feel real. It's just like, okay, cool, it's nice, whatever, it's nice, it's cool, it's nice. But that one, just that one negative one, it almost eradicates all of that. And it's like, it must be so hard for boxers. I always think, like, even with Anthony Joshua, I was at the fight, I was at the Ruiz fight. Do you know, we might as well talk about that now. It's quite funny. I always talk about this, So I got a call from JD or an email saying, oh, you know, like, would you like to come to New York to go to this fight or whatever? And I was supposed to have knee surgery.
Right.
But of course, I'm like, nah, I'm going to go. Of course, what? I'm going to New York to Madison Square Garden to see Anthony Joshua. And to us, it's like, Anthony Joshua is like one of the men. He's like, like a family member. Do you know what I mean? But in my head, I'm not going to lie, I did think to myself, of course I'm going to go, But it would be amazing if I was invited to like a memorable one, you know, you know, like Wilder or do you get what I'm saying? Or even like Tyson Fury in New York or whatever, like them two fighting or whatever it may be. But something that like I'm gonna remember, because this one here, he's gonna go, he's gonna do his thing. Yeah. Obviously, we're gonna be in New York. It's gonna be lit, whatever it may be. Yeah. Bro, did it end up being one of them?
Unfortunately, it was one that you'll remember for a long time.
I don't think I will ever forget that experience and what it was like to be in an arena where I felt like just the amount of disbelief in the building. But I say all of that to say, just to go back to the conversation a little bit, on how difficult it must be to have everyone just cheering for you. Now everyone just doubts you.
Yeah.
Everyone has a negative opinion.
But that's why you can't, you know, I think he tweeted something after the fight where he said, never let success get to your head and never let failure get to your heart. Like, that is, for me, the greatest saying in the world. Because when you're flying high, how many you know, people patting you on the back?
Yeah.
You know, oh, you're this. Like, it made me sick when I saw the response to AJ from that fight. Oh, you're a joke. You're a joke. You know, you're a joke. You know, look at what he's done in his life. Like, it's unbelievable. Whatever happens from here on in, like, the guy has gone from a life where basically he was going into a life of crime. Like, let's be honest. Like, let's not, you know, that was his life. That was his way out, right? He found boxing. He won Olympic gold. He won the world heavyweight title. He unified it. He made more money to secure his 4, 5, 6 generations of his family. And sometimes,
wealth.
by the way, sometimes people say, oh, money. It's like, no, mate. What do you think? Like, don't get me wrong. Legacy's great. You can't eat it, right? When you're getting punched in the head for a living, you better be getting paid for it. And if you're good at it, and if you've got the opportunity, you better get every pound you can possibly get. Yeah. Because this sport is brutal. Yeah. Brutal. And you know why it's brutal? Not just because of the potential physical damage, but when you're in that ring, like he was in that ring at Madison Square Gardens, and he got put down 4 times, and he had to keep getting up. Do you know how humiliating that is?
Of course.
You know, for a guy who is a man mountain, who has got the reputation of being this brute who just destroys everyone. He's had to drag himself back from that mentally and physically, but mainly mentally, and say, I want to do it again, right? And you have to respect that, and you have to respect the man, and you have to respect fighters of what they go through. It's not like what me and you do. Every job has its challenge. Every job is tough. This is a different kind of challenge. You know, you're getting up, you're training 3 times a day. You're doing 15-round sparring. This is stuff that people don't see, you know, behind closed doors. Oh, he's making millions. What about the hundreds of rounds he's doing in that room in there? You know, taking shots around the head, back of the head, body shots, bruised ribs, hands killing every night. You know what I mean? And then you've got to get up at 5 a.m. and do it all again. Like, you've got to respect it. And I feel like fighters are probably, when we talk about social media, they're probably the ones I think that are the most unlucky, because you have literally got the geezer on the couch going, you're a joke, mate.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
That's it.
All you had to do was jab him. You know what I mean? Hold him.
And also, but with your popularity as well, you got a lot of it too.
Yeah, but leading up to the fight.
Do you know what I thought was quite interesting, actually? Even that, watching all of your interviews and conversations that you was having, like, a lot of people were downplaying the fight, and with all due respect to you, you kept saying,
because I know boxing, I know Ruiz is real fire.
Yeah,
like, he's been fighting since he was 8. The biggest challenge AJ has is he found boxing at 17, right? These kids, Ruiz, they were boxing when they were 5. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you just get ring craft, you get ring time, and I knew that Ruiz was a good fighter. And by the way, it was AJ's American debut. So we didn't want, you know, when Miller pulled out, when he failed 3 drugs tests, we had to get a replacement. I didn't want a guy, and the team didn't want a guy that was going to be a joke.
No.
You know, so we wanted Ruiz. The problem was every man and his dog was going, who's this fat geezer? This is going to be a joke. Blah, blah. And probably a little bit of that rubbed off onto AJ as well, where it was like, okay, I need a show real knockout. Like Wilder's just cleaned out Brazil.
Just knocked a man out.
And every media in the week, particularly in New York, was saying, okay, so obviously when you beat Ruiz, like, when's the Wilder fight happening? And so you go into a fight. I feel like if you're not prepared for war, when war unfolds, it unravels very quickly.
Of course.
When he boxed Klitschko, he was ready to walk through fire in that fight. Yeah. And he had to, and he did. Now, he's ready to walk through fire all over again.
Yeah.
Now it's more about, yes, the technical side, but now the mental side, where you have to overcome what happened in June, and you have to put it right this time around in a fight, in the most important fight of your career, probably the most important fight, well, definitely the most important fight of the year, definitely the most important fight of the decade. In fact, one of the most important heavyweight fights of all time.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's mad how the world evolves, where 5 months ago you had this joke fight, and now you've got the rematch of one of the biggest heavyweight fights of all time.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, I'm excited, I'm nervous. Like I said, he's put the work in, and in everything you do, as long as you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I couldn't have done any more.
Yeah.
This time, he couldn't have done any more. So he has to put, what AJ's really good at is executing a game plan. Right? If he's got that regimental mindset that boxing has given him, where if you're told to do something, you follow instructions and you get the job done.
Yeah.
The problem is here, there's emotion, you know, there's positivity, negativity, there's Saudi Arabia, there's this like whole new experience. And I always said going into the New York fight, that was one of the challenges. You know, it's not Wembley Stadium, 80,000 people. You walk up, you go like this, fireworks going off, you know.
It's not your home. It's always different when you're playing on a different
But now he's experienced that, and it's going to be mad. It's going to be wild.
It's going to be insane. Talking about, like, because obviously now I feel like, you know, you've been a part of some very big boxing events. Obviously, you've put them on, and like you was a part of a massive spectacle just recently with the KSI and Logan Paul fight. I've heard you talk a million times about, you know, your feelings on the fight and stuff, yeah. But the angle that I actually wanted to discuss with you a little bit was something that you mentioned about in terms of translating the numbers into like a fan base, because that was like one of the criticisms that you had, which was like, you know, people were saying, like, you know, why are you doing it? You're a boxing promoter. These guys are whatever it may be, and you were kind of on a vibe of, well, these guys have a big following. There's like a whole demographic of kids out there who are probably not that privy to boxing really. So let's give them something that they can, you know, maybe they might remember, and it might get them into the sport. Bearing in mind, Billy Joe Saunders almost messed up your bag for you as well. I mean, I was watching that fight and I was thinking to myself, mate, is this going to be 2 in 1 year for Eddie?
He was behind.
I bet you were sitting there. Yeah. Billy Joe Saunders as well. Just for those who don't know, you're trying to line up a big fight with him. And he was losing this fight, and I was sitting there watching, and I was thinking, I bet Eddie's thinking to himself, "Don't you dare!"
Just signed him, just giving him the big signing on fee. You know,
don't you dare!
Knockout in the 11th round.
But anyway, the numbers: Logan Paul, KSI, massive YouTube personalities, humongous. You could see that in like everything that you do. If you put up a video that says KSI, Logan Paul, whatever, the numbers just spike, and they have a massive following of people that will go and they'll go and watch them do anything. They'll go and watch them run around the track, play darts, whatever it may be. They chose boxing. Now, for you as a promoter, you're saying, okay, cool, I'm going to do this. They have to go and do it through these means, and this is the way that I'm going to try to gain from it by the numbers and trying to get people into the sport and stuff. Thinking about it now, and as you've actually done it, what is your take on, you know, the clientele that they had, and do you feel after seeing it that it is plausible that you could have, whether it be 5% or 10% of that audience actually coming back and watching the sport again?
Well, I think it's a good question, and I think that was one of the arguments of, like, hardcore fans are so negative, right? They don't want to let anyone in. So by you saying you're a casual...
Purist, by the way. That was the word I was looking for. Purist.
I say hardcore fans, but they hate you. They hate casual fans, right? Oh, you dip in and out of the sport. Oh, how dare you? You know, you're either in or you're out. So these guys, these new fans are even worse. They're like, and I'm saying, look, surely if people are watching boxing, if people are following other fighters, if people are following me, Matchroom, us, haven't we got a chance to grow the sport through a new audience? No, they won't stay in the sport. It's like, well, but that's our job, right? So when you say they won't stay in the sport, if our social media numbers, if our YouTube channel has gone up by 30%, 35% through one event, surely that we have a new audience now that we can try to sell to. Now, it doesn't mean they've got to watch another fight. It doesn't mean they've got to, but that's our job to try and convince them to do that. If they're watching, if they're listening, if they're learning, then they've got to. In my opinion, there was, I think, 14,000 people at the Staples Centre. I reckon 10 or 11,000 have never been to a boxing before, right?
Yeah, I'd say.
Trust me when I say it was wild.
I could imagine.
Right? And I know for a fact that every person that went to that arena went, that was the So surely you've just enjoyed your boxing experience. Now, it wasn't, it was two YouTubers, the guys they follow and they're emotional about and they're passionate about. But in the UK, he did over 300,000 pay-per-view buys at 4 o'clock in the morning. I know that 250,000 of them have never bought a pay-per-view before. Like, I've never watched boxing. Yeah. So the answer to your question is, of course, there is a whole new audience now. And to get motivated about sport, you need to be a fan of something, of someone. They're just fans of KSI and Logan Paul. Hopefully they like Devin Haney. Hopefully they like Billy Joe Saunders' knockout performance. Yeah. But ultimately, these people, like Logan Paul said to me, Ed, you wouldn't believe how many people message me going, oh, I've been watching your training. I'm big on boxing now. Like, I've been going 3 times a week to Box Fit or like whatever. Yeah. That all helps. When you're in Box Fit, you fall in love with the sport. You want to watch it on TV. You want to follow someone. It's common sense.
Is there no fear? Well, not fear. Fear is not the right term. But like sometimes you can have a situation where like, okay, best way to pull it, yeah? So I'm a DJ as well. Yeah. So I've DJed for some artists and stuff like that. The artists that have like really big fan bases, yeah? And naturally, as a DJ being next to the artist, you're going to get a bunch of the fans that's like, oh yeah, the DJ, whatever it is. So my social media numbers grow, yeah? However, after a period of time, the novelty of that for them has gone because some of them grow up, they do other things, whatever it may be. The number's still high, which looks good, but the engagement isn't as good. So then sometimes in situations like that, can you not have situations where you've got like a massive high number, your number is really high, but the engagement doesn't replicate?
Possibly, but again, what we're seeing is we're seeing the numbers of engagement are also high. And if they're engaging, then it's up to you. Yeah. So if you're a fighter and these people are now engaging with you and following you and watching, you've got to perform. And if you don't, maybe they will just stop engaging. With us now, with our YouTube channel, we did it the other day. I did a preview of our Matchroom Boxing YouTube channel. Got 130,000 subscribers. We're late in the game. It's okay. We're growing it. I did a preview. I did a preview of our Liverpool show, right? And it did 40,000 views. I did a recap of our KSI Logan Paul show, and it done 190,000. And that's because we had KSI Logan Paul in the title of the video, just like you said. anything that's KSI Logan Paul,
everyone gravitates
exactly.
To it.
So we just got to be clever and say, okay, so if when I did the Liverpool show review, those people didn't engage with that video, let's just make sure we do it in the KSI Logan Paul video, and just make sure that's a job as a salesman to convince these people. And now you hope that, again, going back to my DMs that I read every week, now it's like, when's Logan fighting? When's Jake Paul fighting Anderson Gibb? When's that? So I've got to keep those people, I've got to keep interacting with those people to make them excited. This shouldn't be the end for YouTube boxing. But what it mustn't be for me as a fight fan and as a purist is that's what I am. Yeah. So it was a bit uncomfortable for me, but I really enjoyed the fight actually. Yeah. And I loved the event and I loved the experiment. So now I'm getting footballers, singers, actors, saying, can I do it? Can I fight KSI? Like, what? And it's like, if you can fight and you generally take this sport seriously, then I will look at it. But it can't just take over. And all the broadcasters that we're working with are going, when's the next one?
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa. Like, one a year feels nice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not
you
one a month.
Milk
no,
it.
exactly.
You don't
I've
want to
been
milk
known
that.
to milk some things.
Yeah,
but,
I hear that.
Like, it's difficult not to do, but that's when you got to maintain your credibility and the love for the sport. But, but when there's an evenly matched fight, it's good entertainment, and that's what that fight was.
Eddie, I'm not gonna lie.
I
needed two. I'm not gonna lie to you. I needed 2 out. There's so many things I wanted to I wanted to ask you. One even, and it's more of a personal one. Yeah, like what with all of this that you've done so far. Yeah, and you've come from. I just find it so interesting that your dad is super successful before anything, and you've managed to take something and do, like. What you've done with boxing, it's just like, it's uncomprehendable what you've done to a degree. But what drives you? Because if you've come from a family like this, and you've achieved all of this, and hearing you speak with all of this passion still, and all of this hunger, what drives you to keep going? Like, what motivates you now, though? It can't be money.
No, it's not money, because once you start being
maybe a little
driven
bit
by money, yeah, of course, but basically, my dad's from Dagenham, right? And he grew up on a council estate in Dagenham with nothing at all. And his dad was a bus driver in East London. My mum's from West Ham. And I came around at a time where he started making money, right? Was a bit of a face, was like running snooker with Steve Davis and stuff like this. And I led a very privileged lifestyle. Like, he calls me the silver spoon kid. Like, we have a lot. Like, we're best friends, right?
Why is it silver spoon, by the way? It should be gold.
Yeah, he's gold. No, yeah, I know. But I turned it gold. I always say to him, no, I turned it gold, right? But, so, growing up, I was always Barry Hearn's son, right? So, it didn't matter if I got in the football team or I was in the cricket team. Yeah, Barry Hearn's son, isn't it?
You were defined by
exactly,
your dad.
yeah. So, and all throughout school, college, you're only going to go and work for your dad anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, what do you need it for? You don't need nothing. You know what I mean? But he was so petrified of me being this spoiled silver spoon kid that he would just drum the working class mentality into me, right? So he would make me clean his shoes. He would make me clean his car every weekend. Like, I'm talking about at like 5, 6, 7, like these kind of ages. But the chip that I had on my shoulder, being Barry Hearn's son, always, and I've only really realised it in the last probably few years, has driven me to outperform him. So you have to understand, like, for us, family is everything. And I know, like, it is for a lot of people, but like, if Sunday lunches, we're all around the table. Like, our family is so strong, and that's what he's instilled in us. But unfortunately for people, our business is also our family. We don't have any investors. We don't have a board of directors. We have my dad, and we have me, and my sister works for the company as well, and my mum is the governor. That's it.
Always.
Right? So you're dangerous, because you can't fuck with our business, because that's our family and that's our life. And that's what he's instilled in me over the years. So I feel like my entire responsibility in life, other than being a husband and a father, is to build on what he did. And my only regret, and it's not really a regret, my jealousy is that he got to build it from nothing, right? So I never got the opportunity of coming out of a council estate and going through the ladder and making $1 million or becoming a millionaire or what. Because sometimes I'll walk with him around his house, and he'll just stare at the fields and the house, and I look at him and he's saying to me, I can't believe it. I can't believe what we've done. But I don't get that. You know, I'm still very proud, but I grew up in those fields. Do you know what I mean? So for me, and it's not about, well, then you need a bigger field or you need a plane or that doesn't appeal to me. What appeals to me is carrying forward the legacy that he built, and which is Matchroom. And That's the only thing outside of the family stuff that really drives me day in, day out. And I feel like you're so dangerous when you got that kind of mindset, because once it starts becoming about a house or a boat or a car, that, like, it's just personal. Do you know what I mean? So, like, and that's related in the work ethic. And you couldn't have the work ethic if you didn't have that mentality. Yeah. If you didn't care about something so deeply, so passionately, you can't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, drive to the airport, get on a plane, land in New York, go straight to a press conference, go to a dinner, leave there, fly through the night to LA, do another 2 meetings, get on a plane, go to Japan. Like, it's a killer. When people say, oh, well, you're in business class. I mean, mate, trust me. Like, it's brutal, but it's just a job, but it's life. Do you know what I mean? So I can only say that if you have a passion for something, you become very dangerous at what you do, especially if you've got ability. But I've got ability to sell, but I'm not an intellect. I'm not a genius. But you will never outwork me. Never. And there's no excuse to be outworked, ever. Right? So you might not be the greatest, but you should never be outworked. And my dad always said to me, you know, when times get tough, it's very simple what you got to do. You got to wake up an hour earlier, and you got to go to bed an hour later. That's it. And that's the mentality. We're simple people. You know, we are. Although I've been grown up, I grew up in a great upbringing. We are working class people with working class mentality. And you know, it's why people say to me, you know, I might be on a tube, mate. What are you doing on a tube? I'm just a normal guy that will go for a pint, that will just, you know, want to be with her kids at the weekend, want to go and watch them play sport, etc., etc. So, and I'm doing what I love, and I'm blessed to do what I love, but I have a responsibility because of what my father built to make sure that we continue that legacy.
No doubt. Eddie, listen, at some point we're going to do this again. Mate. We are. We will do this again, man. Thanks a lot. JD and the Duffle Bag podcast. Eddie Hearn. Nice.